You are listening to Bridging the Gap, the podcast where we talk about businesses going global with the help of localization.
Stay put to meet the marketing, product, and software experts that make brands international.
Learn strategies to speak your customer's language.
Hi, and welcome to a new episode of Bridging the Gap. This is your host, Lukas Menat, and today we're going to talk about SEO. Our question is, what's the current state of SEO, and are there still techniques which are working for startups, how to grow your business through SEO? And our guest today is Michal Pecánek. He was working at Ahrefs, and he was head of marketing of CDN 77. And also we have today Jakub Dubec, CMO of Localazy. Michal Pecánek, can you introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, thanks for having me, guys. So right now I work as an SaaS SEO consultant. I work in multiple industries, mostly technical ones like sales, marketing tools. And before that, you already introduced what I did. So I've been freelancing for almost 3 years. I started doing it as a side gig and went full time a year and a half ago. So yeah, the scope depends on the client. Sometimes I do pretty much everything SEO related. Sometimes I'm just really an SEO consultant or advisor, advising on the SEO strategy consulting with the content SEO teams. And sometimes I go beyond SEO because I have not only like strategic experience, but also like hands-on experience with a lot of paid channels. I don't want to say everything, but I've tried pretty much a lot of different marketing channels throughout my careers, but my focus has always been on SEO and content marketing.
Amazing. And we will talk about SEO today. And one of my most burning questions is for small B2B SaaS companies who are just starting out, what foundational steps should they take in content marketing today? What do you say it's the most important thing today in content marketing? And from SEO perspective, where should we start?
Okay, so are we focused on content marketing with search potential or combined with SEO? Because I see this as two different disciplines. Or broader content marketing, we can be talking about newsletters, we can be talking about social media. So are we just focused on the content that can rank in search, right? I think first thing, it should always be to assess whether SEO is the right channel for you at a given moment. I would say that many companies want to do SEO, but they don't have the fit for that, or they don't have enough resources, or they have other priorities that are higher than that channel. So I would say, generally speaking, only do SEO once you're certain that you have a product market fit and that you already have like 2, maybe 3 other marketing channels working already. Never start with SEO as a foundational marketing channel, because especially these days, everyone thinks that SEO is free. And if we look from one perspective, it's really free traffic. But when you look at all the resources spent and needed on making it work in the long run, it could be actually pretty expensive. I would always do this analysis if this is the right time to start focusing on SEO, or if it's ever a right time to put a lot of focus into SEO. I would say that some sort of SEO activities can benefit any business. Certain businesses, especially when we're talking about B2B SaaS or B2B businesses, are better off not really putting much effort into SEO. And then once we assess that, okay, we're gonna focus on SEO, we want to ramp up our organic traffic and drive conversions from that, I'd say focus on building the core pages first, making sure that we have covered all the product pages, all the solution pages, all the bottom of the funnel pages, as we call them. So we can say these are best X tools in your niche. And that not only has to be regarding your specific category, those can be related categories or broader categories as well, because as your product evolves, you can broaden your scope into those categories as well in the future. So we have the data to optimize our current pages, create new product pages. We're talking about like specific product pages, landing pages, where we've analyzed that there's search demand for them. So once we have discovered the product pages, solutions pages, the best X pages, alternatives pages, X versus Y pages, then it's time to do what everyone thinks SEOs are doing, and that's the blogging. So I would say blog is almost never a priority in the beginning.
Would you say in like B2B SaaS, it's different than in like B2C or in a lower ticket market? Like when we are looking at like enterprises, I definitely understand that. And I wanted to ask you like, how it's like if it's not a high ticket market, is there some difference between enterprise and like low ticket, not enterprise B2B SaaS solution?
For sure. With enterprise solutions, SEO can make sense even if there's not a lot of search demand, but you find a lot of very relevant long tail to your target audience. Then it can make sense to focus on SEO and capture something that looks like not a lot of traffic or not a lot of potential, but it can really pay off in terms of ROI. It really depends on your CLV or your ARPU. I have clients or leads where these numbers are in higher tens of thousands. So I would say in that case, it can make sense for enterprises, for companies focusing on enterprises to do SEO as well. But for example, if we find out that this is the case for a company where these numbers aren't that high, I would say that there are likely better channels than organic traffic.
And from your perspective, what strategies can help them stand out in a crowded market with their limited resources if they have the first setup, as you mentioned, like the product pages and so on, like when they are starting blogging, how to stand out and how to make it good?
It's really difficult in most cases, and it highly depends on the topics and on the target audience. So if you don't have a super technical solution or a highly specialized solution, it might be possible to create great content in-house with content marketers who have some domain expertise, but aren't, let's say, couldn't be a part of the target audience. They couldn't identify themselves as CTOs, CIOs, other technical positions. So in that case, you can work on such blog with resources that not need to be that high. But in a lot of cases, in order to create great content that you'd be really proud of, you really need a domain expertise. And that means involving people from other teams in your company. So you need some cross-department alignment or cooperation on this front, and you need to interview the subject domain experts to really be able to put together content that can resonate with the target audience. Or the best way how to do this is to hire the domain expert, but then we're really talking about just one piece of content for at least $1,000. Sometimes those can be $3,000 a piece, and this isn't really a low budget solution anymore.
Yeah, I find this pretty important as there is a nice statistic from Demand Metric which says that over 70% of the buyers prefer to learn about the product rather from article compared to advertising. I think that when you compare the budget which you put into the advertising versus budget you put into high quality content, even 1,000 or 3,000 bucks is not that high amount when it works. That's what I wanted to say, because I can also see at Localazy that the high quality content really works very well, and it also ranks pretty high and sort of quick when you really take care of it, and it can be considered a primary source. It's not just the repetition of already published content, and it really makes a difference. I would say that it's worth it to spend rather more money on higher quality content instead of shooting like 5 articles at $200 each.
For sure. Based on my experience, a lot of companies have exactly this problem, that they don't really want to spend a lot on the content. But when they're spending like 500 on a piece of content that really doesn't resonate with anyone, you're throwing the money away. So yeah, you can create 3, 4, 6 pieces of content for $3,000, but it's not likely going to have any impact on your business. Whereas if you put that 3,000 into one killer piece of content, that can really pay off.
It's a little bit of bet. So you need to have a lot of insights from the customers, what they are actually looking for, which informations are valuable. And so like preparing a very good brief for the experienced author, I think this is a nice step to mitigate the risk that you actually burn the money on content which is not useful at all, but is expensive.
I wanted to ask you, are there any specific content formats or channels, with channels I mean Medium or third-party channels, that are particularly effective for B2B SaaS startups?
In terms of the content formats, now that we're talking about written content, it always depends on the SERP and on the search intent. So you look up the target keywords in Google or in some SEO tool like Ahrefs, and you analyze what's ranking. Sometimes there might be a fractured search intent. There might be a lot of different content angles ranking, which can give you a lot of freedom into choosing what you really think might resonate best with the target audience and what might have the biggest chance at breaking through the SERP. Sometimes you might see that 9 out of the 10 top results are listicles. And then the question is, can I create another listicle that can be better than the other listicles? Usually the answer is really no. So we're creating just copycat content that really doesn't have any additional value to what's already ranking or to what's already in the internet. We're touching the information gain territory here. So we might decide that a better approach is to create content that's not a listicle. That might have a better chance at breaking through and resonates more with the audience. So this is in terms of just content formats in the written form. Then we might be talking about audio. A part of an SEO strategy for many companies is YouTube. So you can drive a lot of traffic to your YouTube videos from Google SERPs. You can rank in YouTube's own search results. So this is a completely different topic. And when you're really working hard on SEO, it often makes sense to invest into video marketing and YouTube as well. And in terms of distribution channels, it really depends on the target audience, where they're hanging out the most. I like to use tools like SparkToro, which tells you a lot of information about like websites that the audience frequents, some Twitter handles, what they're following. It gives you data into the platforms and places where the target audience is present. Based on this, you can adjust the distribution strategy. So I can't say one thing or one channel that works across the board. It always depends on the business and target audience.
Would you recommend, like, let's say, 3 tools which are affordable for starting companies, which can help them actually to perform some analysis over the competitors, make some gap analysis, maybe find which content types can perform well, but they won't ruin the wallet, because nowadays the pricing of many services went through the roof, and maybe there are still some tools which are quite affordable and can help those companies actually make better decisions.
Yeah, sure. A lot of people complain that SEO tools get really expensive over the past few years, but when you really take into account the whole picture, how much they're spending on marketing, it's really just pennies. So I think tools like Ahrefs or SEMrush are still affordable and must have for this sort of analysis or activities. But I would say, if you really want to focus on SEO, you need to hire someone who understands SEO and who's going to take ownership and create a strategy. So that person, if you're hiring an external person, they should already have the SEO tools. As a company, you don't need to buy a subscription. They should already have it. But I think every business can benefit from a tool like SparkToro. I'm not sure if there's any alternative. I really like that for many use cases. So I think this is pretty much enough. Just an SEO all-in-one like Ahrefs or SEMrush, and then a tool like SparkToro, and you're set.
Yeah, you are actually right that hiring a person is number one choice, because sometimes you can have tools, you can have multiple tools, but when there is nobody who can operate it, then those tools are just gadgets actually. So yeah, thanks for
Yeah,
that.
exactly. That's my point, because tools like SEMrush or Ahrefs are pretty complex, and there can be a steep learning curve, at least for people who aren't SEO experts. So I think buying these tools as a business, if you don't have any SEO person yet, you can perform some sort of analysis, and it will guide you through with many videos and demos and this kind of stuff. You can do a lot of the work yourself, at least the basic work, some sort of analysis. But really, you need the person knowledgeable about SEO and content marketing to get this going. So I would recommend you to go that route. And if together you assess that SEO is not the highest priority, or if there's not enough budget, then I would probably skip that altogether.
How to pick such a trusted partner for SEO when you actually decide it's better to hire somebody instead of taking just the fraction of your time to do it? Do you have some tips on how to pick a trustful partner who can actually help us? Because sometimes you can hire agencies, but after a few months you find out that it wasn't so worth it.
Yeah, I think we need to distinguish between hiring an external party, so an agency or an expert freelancer, or someone in-house. So which route do you want to go? Ask your peers, people in the leadership, CEOs, CMOs from similar businesses, or in your space, other SaaS companies, other B2B companies who they're working with, and just go along with the word of mouth. I think that works best, because you can never trust like testimonials on someone's websites or on LinkedIn or anything. You can't trust any promises or how it's going to work, because in SEO, it's pretty much impossible to guarantee any specific results. So I would go that route. And if you don't have any recommendation for a specific person or agency or just something, then you need to have someone at least a bit knowledgeable about SEO in the decision process, because SEO is unfortunately a field where there's a lot of, I would call them grifters, who promise things that will never happen, or you overpay or pay for activities that don't really make any sense. This especially happens with low-cost SEO agencies or low-cost freelancers. Like, they're building links that don't really matter, or they can even hurt you. They do some sort of audits or analysis, or they give you outputs that are completely useless for the business or for the person who receives it. You don't get any strategic plan. You're not really moving forward. So as I mentioned earlier, SEO is not cheap. So yeah, count with that.
Super. And how can like the early startups or the companies measure the success and ROI in their early content marketing efforts?
Yeah, this is a difficult thing to do, especially nowadays. It got much more trickier with the AI era that we're now in, and the changes in the SERP, the introduction of AI overviews into Google SERPs, and especially in B2B and B2B SaaS, where there can be super long sales cycles and there can be multiple people involved in the buying process, and the attribution can be super tricky. You might not have enough numbers or statistically significant numbers or inputs to make any sense for the attribution models, at least in these early stages. Or if you don't have enough conversions, I would not really spend time on trying to attribute the conversions to the specific channel, or at least not to organic, because organic touches people across the whole marketing funnel. So I would focus on proxy metrics, and the best proxy metrics for this that we're creating is traffic to content that resonates with the target audience. we know that the target audience lands on these pages. And if these pages are getting more and more traffic, it should reflect into sales numbers and into conversions. So this is one aspect. Another better metric or proxy for how you're succeeding in terms of SEO compared to your competition is share of voice or organic share of voice that I like to use. So based on some keyword tracking of your most important keywords that you want to rank for, you can see how this share of voice metric goes up. And that's a reflection of the proportion of the traffic you're getting compared to the whole market. So as the percentage goes up, you're more and more present in the search results that you care about.
Yeah, that's actually quite a tricky point. Recently, HubSpot introduced a tool which should help you to grade your share of voice in the AI results. I don't know how they do it and if it gives some numbers you can rely on. I haven't found a way how to actually find out if we get enough share of voice in those new generation search tools. I'm curious who will come with some tools where you actually can trust those numbers. Because I'm completely blind at this moment. I have to admit that because I haven't had enough time to do it. And just HubSpot released something like that, but nobody knows how they get the data.
That's interesting. I need to check that. I encountered another tool that does this tracking, and I think they do it based on just prompting the LLM over and over again with the same prompt or similar prompts, and then they're tracking the visibility of the brand in the results. And this should make sense as part of the tracking approach for many companies doing pretty much any marketing. I think even if you don't focus on SEO, you still build a brand. You still probably want to do some PR. So if you're on this front, putting money into brand building, putting money into PR, you still want to measure, let's say, SEO metrics like this or the visibility in the LLMs.
And when we are talking about AI, like what are your recommendations for AI for startups? Like what you would recommend? Should they use it for content creation? How much they should rely on it? And do you have any specific recommendation, like what you would say is a good way to use?
Again, it depends on who we have in-house and the expertise that we have. Generally speaking, I would not recommend companies to use AI for content creation. It can be done. It can be done in a good way that we can create great output. But I think most people who try to do this really create something that's not valuable enough or that doesn't add anything of value on top of what's already there, or that really doesn't read well, or other million reasons why that content doesn't stand on and why you can't be really proud of that. So in general, I wouldn't recommend companies to use this for content creation, but it can give you great ideas about like subtopics that you can include in the content. It can give you ideas like for the title tag or for headings that can be catchy, or it can give you just the ideas to use to come up with your own ideas. So again, if we have someone that can already work with the models well, there are a lot of ways to leverage this for SEO and content creation. But if we don't have the expertise yet, I would just use it for like the super basic stuff and not rely so much on this.
Actually, AI is good to help us think slower, not do things faster. It's not my idea. I heard it from some wise lady. Like they are trying to move the shift of how people perceive those AIs nowadays. Like, let's not do more things faster, but let AI allow us to think slower so we can actually deep dive into the topics. So it helps us with the thinking process instead of just shooting hundreds of articles online within a day like a magic.
That's a great insight, and it can give you feedback as well. So you can write the content yourself and then ask the AI what it thinks about the content. Of course, it's always better to get feedback from your target audience or from your peers, but you can just ping it with some ideas and get instant feedback on something that you're currently working on.
From your experience, do you already have some clients who use at certain level those language models, or if they make sure that there is still a human in the loop, like enough of the human in the loop?
Yeah, we do. We use it with some clients even for content creation, but not in terms of just write me an article about X. It should have these sections and these sections. No, it doesn't work. It has to be more nuanced. It has to have more purpose, or the input has to contain some unique insights already. One of the ways you can use AI to write actually good content is that you give it some proprietary data that it can use to create content, or you give it your own opinions and thoughts. You can just open a GDoc and talk to your GDoc page, just kind of voice writing about a given topic for 10-15 minutes. You just talk about everything you know about a certain topic. The subject domain experts can do this, or you can do this interview with someone. You can use your sales calls as the input, or pretty much anything that can contain something unique or super valuable. And then if you have this unique information on the input, then yes, AI can create even solid content.
Given the first question from Lucas when he was asking about the different content formats, let's say that you manage to teach the language model to follow your brand tone actually. Do you think is it worth it to use it to repurpose the content? Because, for example, you can definitely invest a few thousand into an article, but then if you don't repurpose the content, maybe it gets lost pretty quickly if you don't syndicate it to other platforms, produce some micro content from that. Do you think this is a way, or can we trust this as a solution to actually cut the time we need to produce a little bit of more value from the investment we already made?
Yeah, I think this is one of those great use cases. So if you already have the content that you're proud of, then yes, you can use AI pretty well to repurpose the content, create snippets of it for social media, create it into a newsletter. You can use your previous posts on social or previous newsletters as the guideline about the brain voice and how you structure those posts. But again, it will make your work easier. It will save you some time, but you're still gonna you have to still proofread it and make sure that it really aligns with everything, that you're satisfied with it. So yes, it's makes your work more effective and efficient, but you still need to spend a bit of time with it.
What is, Michal, your one piece of advice would give to marketers to prepare for the future? Are there any emerging trend or something you see that we should adopt or have an eye on?
My advice would be actually counterproductive here, or something completely opposite to what you're asking, and that's probably to ignore the trends or just really focus on the basics and foundations of marketing. So especially when we've been talking about AI in SEO and how the SERP's been developing and how it's been changing. So I think it's much more important than ever that you have diverse traffic sources, that you don't rely on just one or two marketing channels, especially not on organic search. When I have leads that want to work with me and I hear that nothing's really working in their marketing strategy and they want to have SEO as their silver bullet, as everything that they want to rely on, I decline them. I don't think that's a sensible strategy, at least not for B2B SaaS. It can work for some content companies, but not for B2B SaaS. So yeah, make sure that you have diverse traffic sources, focus on brand building, focus on PR, because that it's gonna make a difference, the LLMs as well, because if you think about it, how it's creating the input, the more visible your brand is around certain topics, the more visible you're gonna be in the output, either of the LLMs or even in Google search. Like, it tremendously help with SEO as well if you're focusing your marketing efforts and budget elsewhere, and you're really going for the long game and not just short-term game.
Guys, if you allow me one more question, I would love to ask you, Michal, because you are the expert here on SEO, and that's, do you have, can you give me your opinion on multilingual search engine optimization? Does it make sense for startups or companies generally who tend to expand to multilingual audiences? I mention it because we are actually doing this at Localazy, and I wanted to ask you, what's your perception on this? Does it make sense for certain companies at a certain level of annual recurring revenue to put efforts into getting multilingual audiences coming in? I saw some sources definitely on this. When you translate actually the content, you also get the international traffic. It of course doesn't end up with traffic coming to the website, it's just the start. But I was curious about if you have personally any experience in this field.
Yeah, so I worked with a few clients who expanded to other languages, some clients to just, let's say, Spanish, but others, if I talk about Ahrefs, I think the Ahrefs website is probably in like 15 or 20 different languages right now. Right now, I have another client who already has 20 different languages on their website. Yes, it can make sense in especially later stages of SEO and content marketing. But again, there needs to be a specific setup for this to make sense. So if you have customer service and sales reps who can operate on that market and in that language, and for sure, it's a high leverage activity for you. But if you don't really have any presence, you don't have any person who can help you with localization, not just translation, then it's likely throwing money out of the window, because yes, you might rank with some pages that you can just put it through people or something. You can rank with that, but can you really convert the traffic and work with that traffic? Most likely not.
That end actually when you don't finish the full circle. Thank you for this opinion on it.
And in the end, I wanted to ask you, do you have any final thoughts or resources you would like to share with our listeners? Because there is so much content out there where we should go and read and learn.
Yeah, so I'll go back to the foundations of marketing. I really liked recently a documentary, Making a Marketer Too, from Jindra Faborski, the founder of Marketing Festival. So yes, a lot of those topics covered in there are from the biggest authorities and biggest voices in the marketing space worldwide. Check that out, Making a Marketer Too. It will give you a great perspective about what's happening around the world with the biggest companies, what's working even for the smaller companies. They are discussing that specific topic in there. And I think it will really put you back into place, not to just go after the super shiny and trendy things and really just focus on the basics. But they're also covering the AI stuff. What really surprised me in there was that one of the key speakers in there, Mark Ritson, one of the biggest names in brand marketing and marketing in general, he's a part of one company that puts together data about market research, and that's an AI company. So they can synthesize market research data in pretty much no time and at a fraction of the cost of the original market research that big companies do for hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. I took a look at it and it looks super interesting. So yes, they are talking about the shiny new things as well, and they can really make our work easier and cheaper.
Wow. And where our audience can learn more about your work and insight?
give us some shameless plug. Dear listeners, maybe Michal is accepting new clients. Let us know, Michal.
Yeah, so you can reach me out on social media, on Twitter or LinkedIn, Michal Pecánek. So michalpecánek.com is my small personal website, and I should really find some time to make it better and expand on some content in there.
Thank you, Michal Pecánek, for coming today, and also Jakub for being my co-host, and see you next time at our podcast, Bridging the Gap.
It was great. Thanks, guys.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
If you like this episode, please follow our channel and add it to your favorites so you don't miss the next conversation. You can also follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube for updates and bonus content. Until next time, stay curious!